Eamon Khan here with Seconds Out. Good to see you, Colin Hart. I last saw you at the Henry Cooper statue unveiling. How are you doing, Colin?
I'm doing extremely well for an old man.
Looking well too. Let's cast our eyes over to the main event, Beterbiev versus Yarde, unified light heavyweight titles on the line. How do you see the fight going?
Well, it's a very interesting fight, and on paper, of course, there's only one winner. You've got Beterbiev, who's one of the elite fighters in the world with an incredible record, 18 fights, 18 wins, 18 knockouts. But that doesn't mean Yarde hasn't got a chance. He's got the proverbial puncher's chance. And we've also got to understand that Beterbiev is now 38 years of age. When a fighter gets to that age, he can get a very old man overnight. So you've got to give Yarde a chance, but if you're realistic, and I'm realistic, then there's only one winner, and that's Beterbiev.
Should Beterbiev come through this fight on Saturday, his mandatory is Callum Smith, someone we know very well, a former super middleweight champion in his own right. Do you think Callum Smith has a better chance potentially should Beterbiev beat Yarde of beating Arthur?
I don't know whether he's got a better chance at all. I mean, Callum Smith's a very competent fighter who's been a world champion, who went the distance with Alvarez. And so if you go the distance with Alvarez, you've got to know your way around the ring. So they obviously, I'm not saying he's got more chance than Yarde, but he's got just the same chance as Yarde. But maybe he's a better boxer than Yarde, although he's not such a heavy puncher at light heavyweight.
Colin, the fight that we all want to see down the line is Artur Beterbiev versus Dimitri Bivol, the undisputed light heavyweight titles online. Do you think we see that, and who would you favour of the two?
Well, it's the old story of boxing, isn't there? There's so many fights we want to see. I want to see Fury, and I did want to see Fury and Joshua. That never happened. I mean, just take, throughout history, the best doesn't always beat the best, meet the best. And hopefully those two will get it together. If Beterbiev comes through this fight, we will see that, shall we say, unification light heavyweight championship.
Colin, Fury, you mentioned that Fury versus Usyk. We're hearing the latest that they're negotiating their own deals with Saudi Arabia, both Fury and Usyk respectively, and that maybe is opening the door for Wembley being the venue. Is that the case? What do you know on it?
Well, I'm always a great believer that the big fights happen where the most money is offered. And if the Saudis offer more money than anyone else, it will go to the Saudis. If they can make more money fighting at Wembley, which would sell out overnight, 94,000, it'll come to Wembley.
Moving on from last weekend, we saw Chris Eubank Jr. defeated resoundingly by Liam Smith. I just wondered what your take was on that fight. It was an unexpected ending there, Colin.
It was unexpected to me, it was unexpected to the crowd, and it was certainly unexpected to Chris Eubank Jr. I thought he would be too quick and too big for Smith. But if you go into the ring and drop your hands, you're liable to get hit and hurt. And that's exactly what happened to Chris. He got hit with a beautiful uppercut, and that more or less finished the fight. But it was possible that Eubank was drained at the middleweight limit. And my feeling is, if he was, he shouldn't go in for the rematch, but would fight in future as a super middleweight.
Has Roy Jones Jr. brought more fluidity to Chris Eubank Jr.'s style? Do you think he should stick with Roy Jones after that defeat?
Well, you know, fighters change their trainers. Some of them had more trainers than Nike. I think that Eubank made the cardinal error of dropping his hands, which is a big no-no for any fighter.
I didn't expect you to come out with that Nike line, Colin. That was a very, very good line. In the aftermath of that fight, Conor Benn commented on social media. I don't know if you saw the post, but he said that Conor Benn would have dealt with Chris Eubank Jr. in 2 rounds. Do you still want to see the fight between the two?
I didn't want to see it when it was first made. I heard about it last July. It should never have been allowed to happen, as it fortunately, as far as I was concerned, it didn't happen. You had a small welterweight against a man who'd fought at super middleweight. The discrepancy in their size was far too great. I'm glad it didn't happen, and I never want to see it.
Colin, we're waiting for Conor Benn. He's presenting his argument, but it's been come out by Riyadh Al Samarra, who's covering the story amongst other people, saying that UKAD aren't quite getting the level of cooperation from Eddie Hearn and Conor Benn that maybe they are with the WBC. What do you make of the current situation regarding Benn's appeal?
Well, we've got to wait to see the outcome of the investigation. What I am surprised about is the WBC say, until the outcome of the investigation, Benn is allowed to fight, which to me is a nonsense. Because if he is convicted of taking drugs, how can you allow a man who's taken drugs go in the ring with anybody? Until this matter is resolved, I'm afraid Conor should not be allowed to fight.
I appreciate that point of view, and a lot of people would concur with that. But do you think we will see Conor Benn return to the ring, maybe abroad, overseas, on an overseas license?
Well, he can't fight in England at the moment, or Britain, should I say, because he hasn't got a British licence. And there is talk of him fighting in Abu Dhabi, which is likely, and he could fight anywhere else in the world other than Britain, because so I expect to see him in the ring if he is cleared.
I'll leave the final question because we're just about to start. Jermaine Franklin being the opponent for Anthony Joshua, good opponent?
You're talking about who?
Jermaine Franklin, Anthony Joshua.
Yeah, that's more than likely to happen. I mean, really and truly, if a year ago or 2 years ago, we'd consider it a mismatch. But Joshua should be allowed to come back with an easy 1 or 2 to get himself back in contention.
Colin, pleasure speaking to you. Thank you so much for speaking to Seconds Out, sir.